Okay, guys, so in this part C of the e-business chapter, we will talk about online advertising. Let's start with the overview. First, we're going to set the stage, provide a few definitions and some reference numbers. Then we're going to zoom in to various types of online advertising, such as banners, search-based advertising, etc. We will then discuss various types of pricing models that can be adopted in online advertising. And obviously, we will conclude this chapter with some concerns related to privacy, for example. So let's kick off by setting the stage. Let's come up with a definition first. Well, advertising can be defined according to Richard and Curran already in 2002 in their Journal of Advertising article as a paid, mediated form of communication from an identifiable source designed to persuade the receiver to take some action now or in the future. Note that the receiver is sometimes also called the prospect. This is a customer who may be interested in the product or service that you're offering and who you wish to attract by means of targeted advertising. Online advertising meets this definition and can be found on the internet. So online advertising is just applying this definition, but in an online setting on the internet. Sometimes it's also referred to as online marketing, internet advertising, or web advertising. These are all synonyms of one another. And this is a huge market, and you can see this illustrated here by means of a report that I retrieved, which shows the quarterly internet advertising revenue between 1997, when the internet started to gain somewhat popularity, until 2019. And you can see that essentially you can see an almost exponential growth starting at about 130 million US dollars in the first quarter of 1997 until about $30 billion at the second quarter of 2019. So you can see that this is really huge business. And in fact, global digital ad spending beat TV ad spending in 2017. You can see this illustrated here with the gray line depicting the TV advertising spending and the orange line depicting the digital advertising spending. You can see that the orange line crosses the gray line at about 2017, clearly showing the impact and the overall size of the digital advertising market. We can also make a further distinction. I'm just going through some numbers. What's important to remember is obviously the trends. Here you can see historical desktop versus mobile trends in advertising measured using half-year results. And what you can see, what's especially worth mentioning with this graph is that you can see that the desktop spending decreases and you see mobile spending in terms of advertising, you can see that increasing because more and more we use our mobile to access the internet and to do all kinds of online services. Think about online banking, etc. So you can clearly see that mobile ad spending is increasing. Okay, so what are the different types of online advertising that we can aim for then? In what follows, I will zoom into email advertising. I'm going to say a few words about display advertising. We're going to talk about search engine advertising, social media advertising, and ad networks. Email advertising. Is email still effective? Because I can imagine that many of us, including myself, receive quite a lot of emails from companies advertising their products or services. Well, research has shown that email still beats social media advertising in attracting customers. Customer acquisition via email keeps on growing, and customers that firms can recruit through email campaigns typically are going to buy and spend more. But what is very important here is to make a distinction between opt-in or permission-based emails and unsolicited commercial emails, often referred to as spam. It speaks for itself that spam is not that effective, right? So if you receive a spam email, most likely you will simply not open it and you will directly remove it and put it in your recycle bin. But sometimes, if there are certain types of products or services that you are actively interested in, you can subscribe to a newsletter such that, or you can subscribe to any types of notifications that are being published about this product or service, such that you're timely informed using a well-targeted email about new types of information relating to this product or service. So this is an opt-in or permission-based email because you give permission to the firm to send you an email whenever there's some new information available about their products or services that might be of interest to you. And it speaks for itself that this opt-in or permission-based emails are a lot more effective than the unwanted, the unrequested spam emails. And there's various firms that actually can help you to perform these types of email marketing services like MailChimp, Campaign Monitor, Email Brain, Benchmark Email, etc. Basically, what they do is they perform ad mediation. They perform some kind of brokering role between buyers and sellers, and they try to match buyers and sellers. And a buyer can sign up and indicate preferences. So I can sign up and indicate my preferences. My preferences would be like, for example, I'm interested in any type of products related to playing tennis, for example. Sellers can then subscribe as well to these type of email marketing services, and they typically have to pay a fee for it. And the fee is usually based on the amounts of emails that are being sent out for the seller. And just to give you some price indication, the average price is about zero point 0.1 US dollar per email that is being sent out for a particular sender. So these email marketing services, they're performing ad mediation. They're trying to match buyers and sellers as a type of broker, essentially. Display advertising. Well, display advertising means that you're going to come up with fancy displays that which a publisher can put on his or her website to attract interest in a particular product or service. And one of the most popular types of display advertising is banner advertising. And the idea there is that the advertiser pays an online company for space on one or more of the online company's web pages to display either a static or linked banner or logo, right? So imagine that you're a news provider, you're a news website, so you're like the Guardian, for example, and you want to foresee a certain amount of space on your website for banners to be put on there. Then other types of companies can put banners on the website of the Guardian to advertise their products or services. And essentially, this display-based advertising is an extension of the traditional media publishing model in the sense that it will work well when the viewer traffic is either big or specialized. What do I mean with that? Well, if you have a website that has a lot of viewers, obviously this is very attractive for advertising. It means that your ads will be viewed by a lot of prospects, by a lot of prospective or potential customers. On the other hand, if your website offers very particular information, very specialized information, then that's also very attractive because that means that your advertisements that are being put on your website can be exactly tailored to the theme of your website. Say you have a blog that talks about tennis, etc. That means that you have a website which is very specific as it talks about tennis. And then in terms of advertising, it obviously makes sense to advertise any products that relate to playing tennis, like Nike tennis shoes, whatever, tennis rackets, etc., on your website. So this online advertising works really well when you have lots of viewer traffics or when your website deals with one particular type of topic. The internet also allows for interactivity, which is very important. Like if you have a newspaper, for example, and there's an ad in a newspaper, there's no interactivity in there because in a newspaper you can see an ad for Nike sports shoes, let's say, and you cannot click on that ad, whatever, you just see the ad and you just read it and you see that there's a discount being offered, etc. Whereas in the internet, there's two-way communication, which allows you to reach a higher level of user engagement. So on the internet, for example, if I have a tennis blog and there's a Nike sports shoes or tennis shoes ad being put on my website, then somebody can click it and be immediately forwarded to the Nike Sports website where he or she can configure the Nike Sport shoes, etc., and actually purchase them, which would be the ultimate aim of the advertising campaign, obviously, right? You can make a further distinction between static versus rich media. Rich media means that you're going to integrate streaming activity, which allows users to interact with the product or service in a very user-friendly, often very visual as well, graphical way. Um, In display advertising, it's very important to take into account the level of intrusiveness, right? How much does the ad interrupt in the user's online experience, right? Because we all have been to those websites. Say you go to a news website and the first thing you see is a banner ad or a pop-up that advertises a particular type of product or service. Well, actually, this can get very annoying. And it kind of annoys you because you're not finding the information you were looking for. You want to quickly close the ad such that you can find the information that you're looking for. So this level of intrusiveness is a very important factor in display advertising. Basically, as an online advertiser, what you want to do is you want to intrusive your customer or intrude your customer's online web browsing experience, but not too aggressively, because if you do it too aggressively, the customer may get very quickly annoyed with your ad, and actually it could create a reverse effect where the customer does not like your brand anymore, does not like your products or services anymore. So this level of intrusiveness is something that should be carefully considered as you start designing your ads, but also as you start designing your online ad campaigns. Low intrusiveness is like customers that have to click on a banner. So you go to a website and there's a banner being displayed there. It's not very intrusive because, in fact, we all have our favorite websites, and the websites we go to oftentimes, without being aware of it, we know where the banners are placed, and our eyes are not focusing on that banners. Our eyes are focusing on the content that we actually want to read. But giving you a high level of intrusiveness and with what can get very annoying is a pop-up or an interstitial, and I'm going to show examples of that later on. A pop-up is when you go to a website and all of a sudden an ad pops up advertising a product or service. That's a high level of intrusiveness and it can get really very annoying. The challenge here from an online advertising perspective is that you want to be sufficiently intrusive to create awareness. You just want to create awareness of the brand, of your product or service without encouraging customers or potential consumers, prospects to invest in anti-ad tools such as pop-up blockers, because you've probably some of you already running these pop-up blockers are going to block these pop-ups from appearing so as to not intrude your online browsing experience too much such that you don't get annoyed by them. But yet, as an advertiser, you do want to make sure that your customers or your prospects or website visitors become aware of your products or services in a subtle way. Okay, so let's talk about different types of display advertising. We have text ads, we have banner ads, we have skyscrapers, etc. And in a moment, I will give you a little bit more examples on this. What is a pop-up ad or a pop-up as it's often abbreviated? It's a new web browser window which opens up, hence the name pops up, to display an advertising message either when a user clicks a button or link. So when you click a link on a website, you're being navigated to the website and you see a pop-up appearing. This pop-up could also appear when a web page is first viewed or loaded, or when you link away from a web page when it's unloaded. So when you link away from a web page, that is also a pop-up that could appear. Nowadays, do note that pop-ups are being blocked by default by most web browsers such as Chrome, Internet Explorer, and Edge, etc. So the use of pop-ups has decreased drastically, and they're more and more being replaced by interstitials, of which I will also show you an example. Pop under ads, so instead of pop-ups, we also have pop under ads. What's a pop under ad? A pop under ad is that you go to a website and the website opens up, and behind this screen of the website, there's another screen that is open up, the so-called pop under ad. So it pops under the screen that you're viewing. And so this new browser window is hidden under the active window that you're looking. So that will not interrupt you immediately. You will not notice it. You will not notice immediately that a pop under ad has popped under, and you will not see it until you close your current browsing or your active window. Yeah? So it's sometimes when you have multiple windows or tabs open and one of them has opened a pop under ad, it's really hard to see which website opened this pop under ad, right? It's not that evident to determine. And it's personally, I still find it irritating, but to some web site visitors, it's considered to be less irritating for users than pop-ups, because you immediately see the information that you were looking for, and once you digested that information, once you're happy with it, you close a website, a pop under appears, and then you can close it right away. So it's a lower level of intrusiveness than pop-ups, which appear immediately as you browse to a website. Here you can see some examples. Um, at the top, you see a banner, right? This is what we call a banner. This is what we call a skyscraper because it has the format more or less of a skyscraper. Here you have this pretty annoying pop-up that appears. You can close it obviously when you hit the close button. And here you can see text ads, textual ads, very important. We're going to come back to that later, that have been put there by Google. And the Google product that is typically used to do that is what we call an ad network. We're going to talk about that later. In this case, this is Google AdSense, for example. So that's a network that provides targeted advertisements to publishers. So here you can see a publishing website that publishes ads provided by Google AdSense. Display advertising is big business. Here you can see another example. You go to a particular type of website, and here you can see another example of a pop-up. These are, if you ask me, very annoying pop-ups, still being used quite a lot by businesses nowadays to try to raise awareness and interest in the products or services that they are offering. Interstitials, what's an interstitial? It's a full page ad loaded before the actual page. So it's a full page ad and there's no actions possible. So you cannot do anything except for looking at the information on that page. So there's no scrolling, no or very limited content visible. So either this interstitial is timed, that means that the page will disappear automatically after a few seconds, or as a visitor, you will have to explicitly close that page. And then once you close that page, or once it's automatically being closed, then you will navigate automatically to your web page or site of interest. So here you can see an example on an app, for example. You open up one particular app and you see an interstitial ad. This is an ad about a particular product, and either, as I said, it lasts a few seconds, or either you have to close it down by hitting this close button, and then the actual app loads and you can perform the activity that you wanted to perform on the app. That's an interstitial. Layer ads, also called floating ads, these are ads that move along as the visitor scrolls up and down a page. So they're very noticeable, they're very conspicuous, they're very noticeable. So as you, for example, browse through a news site or browse through a blog site, and depending upon the fragments of text that you're reading, depending upon the content that you see, targeted ads can pop up. So the website content is partially visible, but there's like a layer ad that is like a layer on top of the content that you're viewing to help the company advertise their products or services. That's especially suitable when advertisers want quick attention and action. It is an expensive online advertising mechanism, though. You can see a layer ad. It's a little bit, well, actually not a little bit. It's an inappropriate ad. So you can see a news article, teacher hit by car outside Queen School. And then there's like this online advertising tool that this website was using. And that comes up with a layer ad. You see this guy here promoting Toyota.com. So I'm not sure whether this is what Toyota really wanted, whether they want their ad to appear with this one particular news article. But you have to realize that all of this is automated, right? So there's automated programs that run these ads, and probably one of those automated programs noticed that the word car appeared quite a lot in this news post. So this online advertising program or software decided to put an ad for Toyota.com. But as I said, not the best ad they can give here, given that it's an article about an accident. So nobody wants their car related to any of that. YouTube is also a tool that offers quite a bit of display advertising if you want to know the different types of YouTube ads. Here you can see some of them. So we have the skippable in-stream ads. If you view a YouTube movie, oftentimes you will see that it starts with with an ad, which you can skip after 5 seconds, right? For example, when I upload my videos, my course videos, or my lecture videos to YouTube, I can tell YouTube what ad I want and whether I want my YouTube video to be monetized, yes or not? Do I want it to come with advertisement, yes or no? And I can choose all of these ads. I can say I want a skippable in-stream ad, which skips automatically, which you can skip after 5 seconds. I want a non-skippable in-stream ad, which lasts up to 15 seconds and which you cannot skip. YouTube also provides in-feed video ads next to related YouTube videos as part of a YouTube search result, for example, or which are being presented to you on the YouTube homepage. It also has bumper ads, which last less than 6 seconds and play either before, during, or after another video. And as I said, when you upload videos on the YouTube platform, you can configure all of these ads according to your needs. There are people that earn quite a lot of money with YouTube ads, by the way. And YouTube, when you have a lot of viewers, for example, there's this famous YouTube has play buttons. It's like a physical button that you get once you start recruiting lots of YouTube viewers, lots of YouTube subscribers on your channel, for example. I think on my dataminingapps.com channel, I have about 10,000 people registered right now. And I think the first play button you get is when you have 100,000 subscriptions to your YouTube channel, right? And then you get a play button because you're getting so popular on YouTube, and actually also because you're generating quite a lot of advertising revenue for YouTube. Search engine advertising is a very important way of doing online advertising in the sense that you're going to use search engines in your advertising campaigns. And what are search engines? We all know Google. Google is a search engine. We have Yahoo as a search engine. Baidu is a Chinese search engine. It's a very popular search engine in China. And obviously, suppose that you're selling that you're Nike and somebody enters tennis shoes and in the Google search engine, then obviously being Nike, you want to make sure that a link to your website appears as high as possible in the search results. Because how often times when you enter something in Google, how often times do you go and look at the second page? Almost never, I would say, right? Most people will look at the first page and will look at the information that's being provided on the first page, the links which are being posted there. And you can start to optimize this from an online marketing perspective using either search engine optimization, SEO, which is completely for free. That means that you're going to optimize your website in such a way that it ranks high in the Google search results, such that if somebody enters tennis shoes in Google, such that being Nike, you rank high without paying Google for it. Or you can also pay Google for it. You can also do sponsored links. You can also say to Google, look, if somebody enters tennis shoes in the Google search box, then I want a link to Nike to appear in the top results, and I'm going to pay you for it, right? I'm going to pay Google for it, which is what we then call a sponsored advertisement or a sponsored ad. This is what we call search engine marketing, SEM, sponsored links and paid listings. As I said, this is really very important because search engine users click more on results on the first page. As I said, you almost never navigate to the search results that are being presented on the second page. And also very important is that you're going to click on the higher placed results, right? So you're going to click on the higher placed results instead of scrolling down to the lower results. If you enter a search term into Google, if you're, let's say you want to buy a flight ticket from Brussels to Barcelona, for example, what will trigger most of your attention is the search results that appear on the first page and that appear as high as possible on the first page. And what we are going to do with search engine optimization is we're going to look at a site's content and meta tags. Meta tags are HTML tags. HTML is the language in which you specify the format of your web pages, and you're going to use meta tags to tell search engines what your website is all about, to tell your search engines what information can be found on your website, so that they can help index your website, understand what your website is all about, and include your website in their search results. And SEO will also consider incoming links from other sites. So in order to rank high, suppose I start a I start a website and I want to rank high, for example, on a particular topic, then I need lots of incoming links from other sites because the Google PageRank algorithm which is the algorithm that underlies the search order ranking in Google, takes into account not only a website's content, but also the number of incoming links. If I'm a website and there are not many other websites that refer to me, then it means that I'm not that very important. Vice versa, if I'm a website and have lots of incoming links saying Bart has to say something about analytics, blah blah blah, then it means that I start to get very important in that one particular area on analytics, for example, right? So I have my own website, which is dataminingapps.com, and we knew that if we wanted to recruit a lot of visitors to that website, that we needed to have incoming links. The same for my company, bluecourses.com. We knew that if we wanted, we have various courses that we provide there on our flagship courses are on credit risk modeling, which is one of my core areas of expertise. And we knew that if we wanted to have lots of incoming traffic for those courses, that we need to have incoming links to our Blue Courses website from other websites that deal with the topic of credit risk, for example. So what are SEO techniques? SEO techniques, here you can see some listed, and this is not an exhaustive list, but you should complement your website and all the web pages that you want to appear in the search results with keywords, key phrases, and you should carefully do some research on how to select them. You should look at the competitiveness of a term. If you have a search term at a high degree of competitiveness, which is very popular, like on the internet, for example, popular search terms are loans, insurance, mortgage, right? So if I start up a website now, which is going to provide information about where you can get the cheapest mortgage or the cheapest car loan, it will be very hard for me to rank high in the Google search results when somebody enters loan or mortgage or insurance or whatever, because I mean, there are so many firms already that offer lending services, that offer mortgages and so on. So it will be easier for me to rank high if the key terms that I wish to be associated with as a website, if they are less competitive, if they're less frequently used in search. I can also make sure that a search engine immediately indexes my website. Indexing means that a search engine is going to inspect your website, is going to see what your website is all about, and is then going to include it in its search results. So I can submit my site directly to the search engine. I can also make sure that I have an indexed link. That means indexed site, I mean, a site that has already been indexed by Google. Make sure that it links to my site, because as I said, the Google PageRank algorithm, which we'll elaborate on in a minute, not only looks at the content of your site, but also at incoming links from other sites and preferably other important sites, right? I can also do on-page optimization of each of the web pages of my website. I can provide meta tags, meta HTML tags, which tell the search engine what my site is all about, right? So I can provide keywords that tell the search engine what my site is all about. I can facilitate the search engine's activity by saying a lot more about the content on my website and providing a site mechanism, a site navigation mechanism in XML, for example, right? A site navigation mechanism, it could be an XML file that will tell the search engine or the search bot, which is the software that search engines use to scan the internet, that will tell the search bot what my site is all about and how it is structured. I can also do some off-page optimization. This is what I already referred to earlier on, basically. That means that I try to get links from external websites by requesting links from webmasters and by applying link building programs, right? So you can apply link building programs. And obviously, you can do this in a malicious or a legitimate way. White hat SEO means clean SEO, means you play it fairly, you play it according to rules, there's no fraudulent intent, there's no malicious intent. Obviously, given the way how Google works, and once you know how Google works, you can also have black hat SEO. And black hat SEO is a fraudulent way of making sure, it's a malicious way of making sure that your website or your web pages rank high in the Google search results. And the tactics that both use, white hat SEO and black hat SEO, are quite different. So let's zoom into each of them into a little bit more detail. But before doing that, we need to explain the Google PageRank. So to the left, you see different pages being represented as circles. So we have web 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 page B, we have web page C, we have web page A, D, E, F, etc. And you see how they link to one another, right? So you can see how they link to one another by incoming and outgoing links, right? So the arrows indicate the direction of the link. So you can see there's a link from D to A, there's one from B to C, and there's one from C to B. What the Google PageRank algorithm is going to do is going to do the following: is it will rely on the democratic nature of the web. It's going to look at every page and the number of incoming links. So it's going to look at that link structure to reflect the importance of an individual page. So Google interprets a link from page B to page C, which we see here, all right, as a vote made by page B for page C. It indicates that page B thinks page C is important. But Google also looks at more than just the links themselves. It also looks at the page that casts the vote. So you can see the importance as measured by the page rank is reflected by the size of the circle. So you can see in this small figure that pages B and C are very important because they are represented by big circles. And you can see that C is considered very important by Google PageRank, despite C having only one incoming link. But the incoming link comes from a very important page, which is page B. So page C, according to Google PageRank, is considered to be more important than page E, despite page E having about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 incoming links. So page E has 6 incoming links from lesser important pages, whereas page C gets only one, but it's from a very important page. It's page B, so that's why page C is also that important according to Google PageRank, and that's the whole idea of this algorithm. And you can see this formalized here. So PageRank considers links from other important pages, and an important page is a page with a high page rank. And it calculates this as follows. So the page rank of a page I, so I is a page, is alpha. I'm going to come back to alpha, so it's like a weight. So let's consider it unspecified for the moment. And then we look at all the pages connecting to I, right? So how many pages connect to I? So how many pages have links that go to page I? So NI is the number of pages directly connecting to page I. And then we look at their page rank and we look at the number of outgoing links from page J, which is K out, number of links going out of page J. Because obviously we want the number of links going out of page A to be limited, right? So if page J there would be lots of outgoing links, then it would decrease the page rank of page I. But if page J only has a few or only one, let's say outgoing link, it will have a big impact on the page rank of page I. Plus 1 minus alpha times EI. So basically what is alpha? Alpha is a damping parameter, which Google sets by default to 85%. And the reason is that this tries to accommodate random surfing behavior. Because this first part kind of assumes here, we assume that we navigate from page J to page I using the link. But it may as well be that somebody arrives at page I randomly just by directly entering the address in Google Chrome. So without following any type of link structure from another referring page. So to accommodate random surfer behavior, to accommodate the fact that somebody can get randomly to page I without following any link structure, we have this EI, which is what we call a restart value for page I. It kind of reflects what's the probability of just randomly arriving at page I. And usually you will assume that to be uniform, right? So let's say you would only have 10 pages, then you would say that the probability to arrive randomly at one of those pages is 1 divided by 10, right? So, or a 0.1. So this is to accommodate random surfer behavior. And this part assumes that you're navigating to page I by following the link structure from page J to page I. And obviously, you can see that the page ranks are mutually influencing one another. So that means that if you want to compute it, you have to compute it using an iterative approach, which you can see illustrated here. So you can see that here you can see three web pages, and you can see the link structure. A has a link to B, C has a link to B, and A and C have mutual links to one another. And if we want to calculate the page rank, we only have three pages, and we start by giving everybody the same value for the restart vector, which is 1, 1, 1, right? So everybody gets the same weight, and then we iteratively calculate the PageRank values until there's some stability in the value. So here you can see the further we go down, at some point you will see that the values start to stabilize, right? Such that we reach convergence and we don't have to perform any further iterations beyond iteration 10, giving us a page rank for page A of 0.26. For page C, it's an identical page rank. It's not surprising because if you look at page A and C, they kind of have similar structure in the network. They both have three outgoing links and one incoming link, and page B gets the highest page rank. So it would be ranked highest in the search results on a particular search term. This is how PageRank works. But now, another thing that is important to be aware of if you do search engine advertising is the robots.txt file, because basically what this file does, this is a file that is being accessed first by any search engine as it looks or inspects your website, as it crawls your website. So every search engine has a piece of software which we refer to as a search engine bot. Sometimes it's also called a search engine spider. Sometimes it's also called a search engine crawler, as it crawls your website to find what your website is all about, such that it gets to know your website and include it in the search engine results. Now, the robots.txt is a small file that is being put on your website, and that instructs the search engine spider or crawler or bot how it should navigate through your website, how it should get to know your website. A small text file containing information for search bots or spiders specifying how they should behave, and which helps directing them to those pages you want to visit and you want them to index. So if you have a website and there are certain web pages which you consider to be irrelevant to Google, you can actually tell Google, hey, if you visit my website, don't go to that page because it's not relevant to you, right? If you have pages that are especially relevant, you can also highlight that. Yeah? And you can define actually different behavior for different search bots. Suppose you have the Google bot, you can, which is the bot used by Google. Slurp is the bot used by Yahoo. MSN bot is used by Microsoft, and the Baidu Spider is used by Baidu, which is the Chinese search engine. So you can the instructions you give to the Google bot could be different than the instructions you give to Baidu Spider, because Chinese people may be looking for different pieces of information than non-Chinese people, which are more frequently probably going to use Google. We can also use a wildcard to specify all search bots, as I will show in a moment, right? In that robots.txt file, there are various options that I can specify. So one option is allow, whereby I give access to search bots to certain pages. So I can say, for example, in my robots.txt file, I said allow search. That means that I allow access to web pages starting with search, right? So if the Google bot sees this, it knows that it has access to all web pages on your website that starts with \search. Obviously, I then also have disallow, which prevents search bots from crawling certain pages, such that you can hide certain pages on your website from the bot. So disallow \asterisk will disallow access to the entire site, which is probably not what you want, but in theory, you could do that. You can also specify a crawl delay. It means that's the minimum time interval to wait after downloading a page to make sure that the search bots are not causing too heavy traffic on your website by continuously browsing your website and inspecting all the pages. You can specify a crawl delay. You can say, look, you can inspect the page, but before you inspect the next page, you have to wait for a couple of milliseconds, for example, so as to reduce the traffic on your website. You can also provide search engine bots or crawlers with a sitemap. This is typically in XML. It's an XML-based representation of the structure of your website, which is really helpful for these search bots as it tells you how your website is structured, how the links are being structured, etc. When I prepared this class, I just went to the Nike website, and you can do that yourself as well. So you just go to nike.com, you can see robots.txt, right? And you enter robots.txt, and you can see the entire file. I only took parts of the file. Here you can see that user agent is asterisk. That means that for all search bots, so for the Baidu search bot, for the Google search bot, here you can see that what pages are disallowed. So member inbox, probably that's an email service which is being used at the Nike website, probably only used for by Nike employees. So we don't want search engines to index that, so we disallow them access to the member inbox website. There's a couple of other websites here which are disallowed. And then there are a couple of specific user agents targeted, like the Baidu spider here, which is explicitly allowed access to \cn. So probably this is information in Chinese, I would guess, right? CN. And here you can see some other pages that are being allowed to be browsed or inspected by the Baidu spider. The Sogu spider is another well-known Chinese spider that indexes the web pages on the internet. And here you can see again that is being given access to certain types of Chinese pages. And here you can also see some sitemap documents. These are all XML documents that will tell the search engine how the website is being structured, and it will be, and using in an XML format, which is actually very handy for those search bots to understand your website structure. You can see that at the end of the robots.txt file, you can see some comments. They included the Nike logo using some textual characters, for example. Now, black hat SEO, what that will do is it's malicious, it's fraudulent, so it will try to, it means that if you do black hat SEO, that you will try to rank high in the search results using malicious or fraudulent tactics. So you will manipulate the search ranking in a way that may cause penalization. Penalization by who? Penalization by Google, by the search engine. So if Google notices that you've been engaged into black hat SEO, it will penalize you. How? I will come back to that earlier on. But let's first have a look at some black hat SEO tactics. Keyword stuffing. Keyword stuffing means that you're going to fill your website content with irrelevant keywords. So you put on your home page, for example, you put lots of keywords which are totally unrelated to the content that you're providing. But the reason that you put so many keywords on your home page is to make sure that you have that to show to Google, to the Google bot, that you're covering a wide range, such that you will show up in the search results for Google, even for keywords that are totally unrelated to the content that you're providing. So keyword stuffing means putting a lot of keywords on your homepage to attract traffic from Google in a malicious way, since the keywords are not related to the content that you're providing. I can also do invisible text. Invisible text, if I can enter some white text, such as keywords on a white background, my visitors don't see them, but the search engine bots, the Google bot, will see it and will consider it as important. So actually what you're doing here once more is you're deceiving the Google search bot because you're engaged into black hat SEO. Cloaking means that you're showing different content to the search bots than to the users, right? The idea of cloaking is you present yourself to the search bot in an attractive way, such that the search bot thinks that you have something meaningful, attractive to say on a particular topic, but it's actually totally different than the actual content that you're providing. So you have a disconnect in between those, which is obviously, again, a malicious black hat SEO practice. Other types of black hat SEO manipulation techniques are doorway pages. That means that you're going to transfer the visitor from a chosen page to an unrelated page using a meta HTML tag. So I can make a page which looks very attractive to the Google search engine bot on a particular topic, but as soon as somebody hits that page, I refer him or her using an automatic refresh to a page where I'm providing my actual content, where most likely the user will not be interested in. So you're just again trying to recruit traffic using this doorway page, using an automatic refresh. And here you can see the tag. So this is an HTML tag. It says refresh. And here that's the delay, right? So it says it's the delay is being put to 0. So after milliseconds, the user will be renavigated or referred to this page, um, which is the one that you want to show to the user. So again, you have this disconnect between the information you show to the search engine, which is your doorway page, and the actual content that you're providing. What you can also do is, knowing that PageRank ranks pages based upon the number of incoming links, you can start buying incoming links. So you can have those fake websites. We call them link farms. They're like fake websites. And the only thing they do is they sell links, right? They sell links to firms in order to rank high in the Google search results. It's again malicious practice, right? Because you're trying to deceive the Google search bot. Reciprocal link schemes are also a type of black hat SEO, in the sense that if I would be a firm, firm A, I can agree with firm B and say, look, we don't, well, we're discussing different things, so we're not competitors of one another. But yet, what we will do, since we're not competing with each other, we provide links to each other, right? We provide reciprocal links. So A provides a link to B, and B provides a link to A back, such that both of us will rank higher because we will be considered as more important to Google's PageRank algorithm. Obviously, when Google notices this black hat SEO, it will penalize. And it can penalize by downgrading your ranking and say, you've been naughty, so you will be downgraded. Or when you've been extremely naughty, when you went a little bit over the edge with the black hat SEO, Google can actually ban your site from its search results and say, we will not include you in your search results anymore, either for infinity or either for a particular amount of time. Search engine advertising can also comprise of search engine marketing, where you have paid listings, where you have short text advertisements that appear within search results screens. This is search engine marketing because here the advertiser will pay the search engine to rank high, to rank at the top in the advertisement space of the search result screens. And that will be done by using auctioning, as we will see later on. So advertisers will bid to sponsor selected keywords. And one particular type of product that Google is offering to automate this is Google Adwords, which relies on cost per click bidding campaigns. Let's have a closer look. So here you can see that I entered tennis shoes in Google, and I have paid listing with sponsored links, and I have organic search results. So the first thing you do, the first thing you see is here you can see ads, right? So these are paid listings. This is a paid listing with sponsored links. So the companies that we link to here have paid Google to appear there. And you see here that Nike paid Google to appear here, Zalando has paid it, and some others. Right? Adidas has paid as well, so you can see it here. Adidas and Nike and Zalando all paid for those that keyword or those keywords, tennis shoes, to be put here by Google. And Google also plays it fairly in the sense that they mention to their site visitors or to the people that are browsing the search result that these are ads. So these are ads of companies that have paid for appearing there. You can see some further ads from Adidas and Nike here. We also have organic search results. If you would browse a little bit further down, here you can see the organic search results. These are companies that just rank high in an organic way. They did not pay Google to be ranked there. They just were smart enough by using all these SEO tactics, and preferably white hat SEO tactics, to rank that high in the search results. So you can see Sports Direct has ranks pretty good in terms of SEO, Tennis Plaza, whatever that may be, etc. Okay. So Google AdWords works using an auctioning process. So it has a few advertisement spots available, and it's going to sell those to advertisers using an auctioning process. And whether your ads get listed or not, and where it get listed, the ad position, and how much you have to pay for it, depends upon how much you're willing to pay for it. What's the maximum bid that you're willing to pay to be put on the results page of Google for specific search terms. It also depends on the competition and obviously quality score, the quality of your brand, the quality of your ad, etc. And there are actually some search keywords that are very expensive. And not surprisingly, these are insurance, these are mortgage and loans, because these are search terms that are being searched a lot for in the Google search engine. And obviously, they all imply huge business because it means that somebody's looking for insurance, for a mortgage, or for a loan. So banks are really paying a lot of money to rank high, to not to rank high, to be part of the Google sponsored links using Google AdWords for each of those search terms. So with Google AdWords, you can really set up a paid search campaign. You can write ad text. You can design your landing page. The landing page is the page that the visitor lands on when he or she clicks on your ad, when he or she clicks on your banner ad. You can select keywords. You can set the budget and put in bids for each keyword. Here you can see a Google AdWords campaign. So let's say we want to do an AdWords campaign for studying at our wonderful Faculty of Economics and Business at KU Leuven. I have a headline, I have a description one, I have a description line two. It's the URL, the website that my ad connects to, and a destination URL. So I have a display and a destination URL, which Google AdWords allows me to define. And then I can enter a few keywords like study abroad. So I want, if somebody enters into Google study abroad, I want to have a link to our faculty, master degree, Belgium, right? I can add in some further keywords if I want. And here you can see two ad previews. So these are two ad previews, which will then appear in the search results when somebody enters the search terms you see right here. So that's how you can design an online Google AdWords campaign. Um, Typically, those ads can also take into account the location, yeah, showing the location that you're based in, or if you add location information, they will also tailor the ad specifically to the location information you have provided. So here you can see Plumber San Diego, and you can see the ads that are being listed are ads that refer to plumbers in the San Diego area, right? And it can then also be complemented with Google Maps, etc., to show the exact locations of all these plumbers outlined on the map. So using Google AdWords, you can also include that geographical information. Social media marketing is also another type of marketing. So this is advertising delivered on social platforms like Facebook, like Instagram, like Twitter, like LinkedIn, including social network and social gaming websites, because the gaming industry is also very big in that, and apps across all device types, including desktops, laptops, smartphones, and tablets. You can have newsfeed ads or you can have sponsored ads. And the social media advertising business is getting really big. Here you can see its evolution between 2012 and 2017, measured using the cumulative annual growth rate. Newsfeed ads or sponsored ads, what's the difference? Well, here you can see the difference. This is my Facebook account, let's say, and I'll log on. And there could be that these are what we call newsfeed ads, because these are ads that appear in your newsfeed. So your newsfeeds show you messages about your friends, pictures about your friends, whatever. And if you have ads appearing in them, they're newsfeed ads. But sometimes you can also have ads that appear here in the right column, which don't appear in your newsfeed. Two different types of ads. Um, in social media marketing, what's really very powerful there is to make use of the social graph. So the pattern of nodes representing Facebook users and links among them. Because if your friends like a product, then very likely you will also like a product. So if you have good friends on Facebook and they've seen a movie, then and they liked it, and they share that information on Facebook, it might have a positive influence on you. In social network scientific research, We often call this the principle of homophily. Homophily means birds of a feather flock together. You are very much like your friends, and you might be influenced by your friends. So social ads provide advertisements alongside related actions your friends have taken on a site. So as I said, your friend watched a movie, liked a movie, shares that on Facebook, it will influence you, right? So it's really very important. So these are subtle personalized social signals like person X liked the movie, liked the book, liked a particular service offered or a particular product offered by a company, shares that on his or her social media and will have an influence with you. And it will create larger and stronger, the effect will be larger for stronger relationship. So if somebody likes the history channel and all of a sudden you see that one of your friends, or so Gina is one of your friends, likes the history channel, then it might have an impact on you yourself as well. So the social media marketing business is very big business, especially also with Facebook Open Graph, because Facebook provided an API, an application programming interface that allows everybody that who wants to build a website to share information on their website with Facebook. So if I build a website, um, I can add a Facebook like button to my website. I can add a Facebook share button on my website, which allows users that browse my website, and if they like something on my website, a product or service, or even just an article, they can click like, and it's immediately sent forward to their Facebook profile. It's put in their news feed or in the news feeds of their friends, and the friends see that Bart liked this one particular product, this one particular service, etc. So Open Graph is this API that allows developers of website to connect their website or product to Facebook social network. So it can create a tremendous impact, right? And that could be simple like buttons to more complex structures, like so if you're a movie website like Netflix, and somebody watched a movie on Netflix, you can on the Netflix page you can share the fact that you like this movie using a like button, or you can also do that on gaming sites or on book reading sites like Amazon, etc. If you like the book, you can share it immediately on your social media Facebook platform. You can even um, add information about the location where you went to a certain event, or if you're interested in a certain event, you can post that on Facebook, etc. I see that nowadays quite a lot, that people are interested in certain events. That could be rock festivals, etc. They went to the website of the rock festival and they shared that information directly to their Facebook profile, which as such creates a viral effect amongst their friends, because everybody's saying, hey, my friend is going to this festival, it might be interesting for me as well. Yeah. So you're actually propagating your activities to your friends. Also, Spotify is heavily involved in that, right? So here you can see how you can create a Facebook ad. So you can choose your objective, you can select your audience in a very detailed way. You can decide where you want to run your ad geographically. You can set your budget, you can pick a format, you can place your order, and you can then measure and manage your ad. And here you can see different types of formats. You have a carousel, which is an ad with two or more scrollable images or videos. It could be a single image, which is quite simple. It could be a single video, it could be a slideshow or a collection, right? So you can very carefully design your ad on Facebook to make sure that you optimize its return. You can see some further information about how you want to edit your audience. You want to, here you can see the locations where you want your ad to be viewed: United States, Canada, Spain, and United Kingdom. The customers that I target are between 18 and 55 years old. The genders I target are both men and women, etc. Right? Ad networks are another important online advertising concept. And they're actually, what these ad networks are, is that they're an intermediary between advertisers and publishers. They try to connect publishers with advertisers. Say that I would like to start a website, which we did, right? With dataminingapps.com, for example, is a research website that I run. And I want some ads to appear on there. So I can either decide myself which ads I'm going to put on there, and then get into an agreement with the advertiser to make sure I get some money for everybody I send to their website. Or I can say, look, I'm not going to do this myself, the advertising on my website. I'm going to have an ad network doing it. So an ad network will then look at my website. It will look at what my website is all about. So my website, dataminingapps.com, is about analytics, etc. And it will decide itself what ads to put there. And that is very handy for me because then I can earn some money. And that's not a lot, by the way, but I can earn some money by having an ad network autonomously decide on what ads to put on my website. So the network and the publisher, I'm the publisher, dataminingapps.com, and the network and the ad network each get share of the revenue, right? So the advertiser, think about a company like IBM, pays a certain amount to the ad network, and the ad network then at some point decides to put a banner about IBM on my dataminingapps.com website, then I will also get some revenue because on my website I created some exposure for IBM. So part of the money that IBM pays to the ad network, I also receive. So, and each network has its own profile in terms of the size of the publishers, the sectors it focuses on. And the most popular example is Google AdSense, but we also have Facebook Audience Network ads, M-Media, and Apple Advertising. They're all examples of ad networks that automatically connect advertisers and publishers. So as a publisher, as a website, you no longer have to bother by thinking about what ads to put on your website. You can have an ad network do it automatically for you. And that has various benefits because the ad network brings in an entire group of advertisers and publishers together. It's like a broker essentially. It's quality control. So if you have some kind of dodgy advertiser which advertises, I mean, like uh, bad products or products which are not ethically well respected or whatever, which have ethical concerns, then the ad network can say I'm going to ban them from the network and from being advertised. There could be automatic ad rotation. There is automatic ad rotation. So if you log on to my dataminingapps.com website today or right now, you will see some ads there. But if you do it in an hour or half an hour again, you will see other ads. So the ads on my dataminingapps.com website, they continuously rotate depending upon who logs on, from where, depending upon the time of the day, etc. So it allows also an ad network, the publisher and advertiser to control various campaign parameters, like the number of times your ad has been viewed or served, the type of ad format, where you want your ad to not appear, right? So if you're an advertiser, you can design an ad and you can tell the ad network, I don't want my ads to appear on this type of website, etc. Right? Um, you can support various forms of targeting. You can say, I want my ads to appear only for people aged between 18 and 30. I want my ads only to appear for males, for females, etc. And I can actually even do tracking and provide customizable reporting on the campaign performance, how well your ad performed, how many people clicked on it, for example, or how many people clicked on it, visited your website, and bought a product or service. You can see that, like The Guardian, for example, is a website. It's a news website in the UK. And when I prepared this lecture, I kind of logged on, and I'm a wine lover. I really like wine, not too much, obviously. Here you can see a very nice Chateauneuf du Pape because this is being done by Google AdSense. So The Guardian uses Google AdSense. So Google AdSense decides, it knows because it uses cookies, which we're going to come back to later on. So it knows Bart is logging on to this website, and it knows that Bart likes to drink a glass of wine, and it's going to show me a targeted advertisement, right? Lately, the funny thing is I've been Googling when I prepared this lecture, I was Googling a lot on BlackBerry. Why? Because I wanted to not purchase BlackBerry, but I wanted to purchase BlackBerry stock because I thought BlackBerry has some very good cybersecurity solutions. I thought at that very moment, so I want to invest in BlackBerries. And when I went to Forbes, which is also a news website, here you can see Simone Biles. This lecture was made during the Olympics. You can see Simone Biles is smiling because she won the bronze, remember? And I went to this Forbes website, and funnily enough, also here, Forbes uses Google AdSense. So Google AdSense is the ad network that Forbes is using, and it shows me an ad for buying a BlackBerry um, because Google AdSense thinks that I'm interested in buying a BlackBerry. This is not true. I'm very happy with my iPhone, but I was interested in the BlackBerry stock, so which I purchased and which is at this moment not doing too bad. But anyway, you only get the money when you sell it, right? Okay, so these are two websites, The Guardian and Forbes, that use Google AdSense, and you can see how the ads can get tailored to your preferences, etc. Ad networks have various benefits. They work fast, they have broad coverage, they connect, as I said, advertisers and publishers in a very smooth way. The costs are pretty low. It's very easy to measure the cost and effectiveness by looking at the click-through rate. How many people click on the ad link? How many people click on the banner? How many people click on it and then actually convert? That means that I'm going to buy the product or service. You can actually do A/B testing. That means that you can play with various types of ads. So if you have two types of ads, which are designed differently in terms of colors, in terms of the pictures which are being put on the banners, in terms of the text that is being put on there, you can play with both and see which one gives you most clicks or most conversions in terms of a purchase, which is the ultimate goal, right? And that's what we call A/B testing, which is also facilitated by ad networks, and definitely by ad networks such as Google AdSense, because Google AdSense is also tightly connected with Google Analytics, which is an analytics tool Google is offering and which we'll come back to later on. The ad networks also offer you personalization. So you can really personalize the ads according to your needs. So the ad networks, personalized advertising versus mass advertising, but how does the personalized advertising work? It works by means of contextual targeting, so based on web page content. So if Google AdSense, for example, looks at my dataminingapps.com website, it's going to look at the keywords. My website is about analytics, about big data, about data science. So it will distill some of those keywords from it, and based upon the keywords that it has distilled, it will decide upon what ads it will put on my dataminingapps.com website. But it can also be based upon behavioral targeting, like based on past browsing behavior using cookies, and that's a mechanism which I will come back later, which allow you to look site to site. So which allow you to measure and save consumer interest as a consumer or website visitor navigates from site to site, right? So, for example, if a user, we may assume that a user is male if he has visited soccer and male fashion website before. Not always correct, right? But in a majority of the cases, that's an example of a user that could be male. And there's various types of targeting mechanisms that these ad networks use. They do geo-targeting via your IP address. So via your IP address, they can find out what your location is. And based upon that location, they can also tailor the ads to shops, physical shops nearby, for example, if it would concern a physical shop, by means of GPS coordinates and sometimes also by means of cookies. Demographic, that means that the ads are targeted towards males aged between 18 and 34, or psychographic, that means that you kind of made a profile of someone that he or she is a travel enthusiast. That means that as soon as he or she logs on to a website where Google AdSense is serving the ads, you will see ads appearing that relate to traveling, hotels, etc. You can also do day parting, which means that you can say, look, I'm going to cut the day into different parts, and I want my ad to only appear during business hours, during specific days of the week. I don't want it to appear during the weekend. You can also do a targeting mechanism based on bandwidth, which means that you see whether you can provide rich media or not. You can only provide this when you have enough bandwidth on broadband connections, for example. If you would see that the connection is not a broadband connection, which is typically still, unfortunately, the case in developing countries, there you can provide with a more um, not a rich media, but just a simple textual banner, as that consumes lot less bandwidth. You can do pixel targeting or retargeting, which focuses on bounced visitors by following them after they visited your site by means of a small piece of code or pixel. How does that work? You can see this visualized here. This is a potential customer, and he or she visits Nike website, let's say. So they visit the Nike website, and using a pixel, Nike could, I'm not sure whether they're doing this, I'm just making this up on the fly right here. So Nike can put an invisible pixel, yep, and which sends information to the Google AdSense network, right? It's actually an invisible pixel. It's an image which is being downloaded, and by downloading that image, right, you tell Google AdSense, look, this person has been on the Nike website. He or she did not purchase anything, but the ad network knows that you're potentially interested in Nike sport shoes, let's say. So the user visits Nike, the pixel, because of the pixel that is being downloaded from another server, like an ad network server, you tell the ad network that you're interested in Nike shoes, but you leave without checking out. Then as soon as you enter another website, which also uses Google AdSense, then Google AdSense already know that you visited the Nike site before because it noticed that you downloaded this inconspicuous, this invisible pixel from the Nike website. So it knows that you visited there and it knows that you're interested possibly in Nike sport shoes, and then it can actually um, offer you a tailored recommendation, a promotion, or an ad for Nike sports shoes. So pixel targeting, the whole idea is, let me rephrase that, is that on a website, there's a white pixel. Why is it white? It's transparent such that the user that visits the website doesn't see it. This white pixel retrieves information from another server, from another server. And basically by doing so, you're telling the other server that you visited the Nike website. And if you then visit another website that is also connected to this third-party server, like this ad network server, then this third-party server already knows that you visited the Nike server before or the Nike website before, such that you're interested in Nike products. That's the whole idea of pixel targeting, which you can also find here on this explained on this website. What are the pricing models that are being used in online advertising? Well, first of all, there's a cost per click, which is a flat fee for each click on an ad. So the advertiser has to pay a flat fee for each time his ad is being clicked. There's a cost per action, whereby the visitor clicks on an ad and continues towards an action, right? The action could be the purchase of a product or service, could also be the download of a PDF, for example, right? Or a request for a quote. So you can define the action as you want, and cost per action is another pricing model whereby the advertiser only pays when a particular type of action has been performed. There is also cost per mil impressions, right? Cost per each time 1,000 times an ad is viewed. And for mobile apps, right, on your mobile, there's the CPI. There's a cost for advertised apps. All right, the cost per install of an advertised app. So if you do advertising on mobile devices, for example, you can say, look, the advertiser only pays when his app is being installed. That's the cost per install. And obviously, you can blend these schemes. You can have hybrid models and so on. Click-through rate is an important concept, is the percentage of visitors who see an ad and click it, right? And based on that, you then have this following relation. Cost per mil equals the cost per click times the click-through rate times 1,000. Now, many of these online advertisement platforms work with real-time bidding systems, with online auctions. So in a real-time bidding system, the bidding will unfold in milliseconds before a web page is loaded by consumers. So you have to imagine that somebody visits my website, let's say I would sell a product or service, and I'm a publisher, so I publish ads on there. Um, and I'm using an ad network, let's say, who will automatically decide what ads to put there. Then this could be done in a real-time auction, where in real time, in a few milliseconds, advertisers are gonna bid to have their banner put on my website using an auction mechanism. So the price is agreed in real time on an ad by ad basis in a fully automated auction. So, and you have three players in there. You have a supply side platform, which enables publishers, they supply the publishing space. So I start a website and I have some publishing space. So a supply side platform enables the publishers to make their advertising inventory, my publishing space, available to ad exchanges, and I allow to set a minimum price. I said if somebody wants to advertise on my website, that's the minimum I'm charging. I can also specify the types of advertisers and ads that I accept. I said, for example, I don't want any ads of this type of political party. I don't want any ads of this type of movement. I don't want any ads of these think tanks, etc. Right? That's the supply side platform. The demand side platform is more for the advertisers. It enables the advertisers to set up their campaigns, right, and to make their ads available to the demand side platforms to define their target audience. They could say, look, we want our audience to consist of males or of females, people that are retired, people that are living in this location, and so on. And it also allows to place bids. Both are then connected, the supply side platform and the demand side platform, using an ad exchange, which is like it's like a real life exchange, right? But it automates in real time. So it will connect the supply side platform with the demand side platform and facilitate, automate, and enable the entire buying and selling process via real-time auctions that only take place in a few milliseconds. You can look at this website for some more information on that. You can see that here. So you have the advertiser, the publisher, the advertiser, so they're connected via demand and supply. The mindset that we have a demand side platform, selling side platform, and the ad exchange operates in between. You can see this nicely illustrated here. So a visitor enters a publisher's website address. So somebody visits a publisher's website, a website that has ads on there. And the publisher will then send a request to an ad exchange for, let's say, one ad of a particular specification, let's say a banner. So the publisher tells the ad exchange, give me a banner. The ad exchange then makes available the details of the visitor and the publisher site and ad unit to all the participating advertisers, agencies, or maybe even ad networks. And here this guy says, I offer $1 for the impression and for the ad because the visitor abandoned a shopping cart on my e-commerce site 2 hours ago. $2 he offers. It's quite a lot. This one offers less. He offers 1.8 because the visitor is a 15 to 22-year-old ABC, one male with an interest in sport. This one offers less, $1.6 because this is an authoritative movie and gaming site, for example. Obviously, who will win the real-time auction? Well, the one with the biggest bid, which is this guy. So advertisers respond with different bids based on the value of the impression to themselves and the ad creative. Then the ad exchange selects the highest paying advertiser, so that's this guy, and sends the corresponding ad or banner to the publisher's website. And the visitor sees the creative from the highest paying advertiser, so from this guy, and the whole process takes place in milliseconds without us being aware of it. So that's how it takes place. Okay, so obviously in this whole online advertising world and community, there's concerns, right? So spam is one of them. I already briefly referred to it. Click fraud, adware, and privacy are other concerns that we should be aware of. So let's zoom into each of those. And some of them are quite evident, like spam is unsolicited email. So we're receiving email that we didn't ask for, and it's promoting certain types of products or service. So there's a very big incentive for companies to do that because it's a low cost and it creates a large visibility. So as a company, you can actually write a scraping program that scrapes a bit like a spider or a bot that serves the internet in an automated way and that tries to retrieve as many email addresses as possible, which you can then use in your marketing campaigns. Obviously, when you do that, a well-established, a well firm with a big reputation is not going to do that because if you receive spam from a firm with a good reputation, I mean, it will reflect badly on them. But still, some firms that need to start growing business, they're still doing it because they have to start from somewhere. And I mean, it's not a nice way of, I think, of operating, of doing online advertising. The true costs are perceived by the internet service providers because that means that these guys have to process a lot of emails, a lot of spam mails. So that means that it's going to put a burden on their servers, on their routers, on their network infrastructure, and also by the email users because if we receive a spam email, it's not something we like. There exist spam filters, but you know that spam centers always try to bypass these spam filters. Even now here at KU Leuven, we have very sophisticated spam filters, but even those are being bypassed quite regularly by creative spammers. Click fraud is a possible threat to the pay-per-click model, right? So um, imagine that let's say that that I'm Nike And one of my competitors is Adidas, right? So what I could do is I could actually enter tennis shoes in Google, and then I will see that one ad from Adidas appearing, and I can click it. But since I'm Nike, I'm never going to pay for it. But actually, what I'm doing is I'm making Adidas pay for the click. So Adidas pays for the click, and I'm Nike, so I'm just depleting their marketing budget, right? Without being interested in Adidas shoes. So I'm never going to buy Adidas shoes. I'm just being a pain by just clicking on those ads and not buying any products or services from Adidas. That's click fraud. So, and you can do that as a person, but obviously you can also um, have a script or a program which automatically runs and imitates a legitimate web browser user clicking on an ad for the purpose of just generating the charge per click, but without having actual interest in the target of the ads link, right? And that will obviously increase the distrust between advertisers and publishers. Here you can see there's two types of click fraud. The first one is um, um, the one I just illustrated. It's Nike, for example, clicking on Adidas ads, so it's competitor click fraud, clicking on a rival company's ads to deplete their advertising budget. There's also publisher click fraud, because if I'm a publisher, all right, let's say that I'm a website and I'm a tennis blog. I write a lot about tennis, etc. And what I could do is I have banners on my website from Nike. I could just click them because now I'm the publisher. I repeatedly click the ads on my own website because I know in a cost per click model I will get money for it, right? So that's publisher click fraud. Adware is a software package that typically is often installed with another software tool. So you download some kind of software tool from the internet, and sometimes it can come with adware. And this adware is going to display unwanted advertisements. So it's going to create on your laptop an excessive number of pop-ups. It's going to install toolbars full of ads. It's going to modify your browser settings, such as your default homepage or your favorites, which now all of a sudden become the website of a particular type of company that is behind the adware, etc. Adware could also forward any sensitive user information to marketing companies, etc. So this is definitely something that you don't want. Privacy is really very important here, right? And actually, there's a lot of privacy debate because there's a lot of information being collected about website visitors, about customers, about users nowadays, especially given the fact that we live in this big data and analytics world. So the right to privacy was first formulated in 1890, more or less as the right to be let alone. So you should be able to be free from surveillance or interference from individuals or organizations, including the state. Information privacy then says that certain information cannot be collected without a user's consent. Individuals should be able to control whatever information is collected about them, right? And they should be able to edit or delete information on the web. And this also includes the right to be forgotten. So if I want to be forgotten to a certain website, say that I browsed the Nike website a few times, and Nike has some information about me, collected some information about me because I purchased shoes as well. At some point, I should be able to say, Nike, I want you to forget about my existence, right? So I have the right to be forgotten, delete all the information you know about me, about my customer preferences, about my previous purchases, etc. That's the right to be forgotten. And there's also obviously a privacy versus utility trade-off, because think about Amazon, right? So you log on to Amazon and you make a profile, right? You say I'm Bart Parsons, and these are the type of, this is my gender, this is my age, these are my hobbies. Then obviously that will create a utility for you as well, because Amazon will then be able to tailor its recommendations towards your needs. It will know that Bart loves wine, so when there's wine books coming up, uh, Bart loves about World War One, World War Two, and Napoleon and analytics. So there's a utility that comes with it if I provide some of my privacy, if I reveal some of my privacy to Amazon. There could be a monetary motivation in the sense that if I purchased a lot of products with Amazon, they give me a nice discount because I'm a frequent customer, since I shared my privacy with them, since I shared some of my details with them. There could be personal service motivations like recommendations that are given by Amazon and which are particularly tailored towards my needs. There's also other utilities like public cameras. Here you also, you give up some of your privacy, but this could be very handy for crimes and emergency tracking. GPS tells you where you are, and that can come in handy for navigation or emergency localization. Social networks, you give up some of your privacy, but that in return, you can get some fun, you get some status, you can get some connectedness. So you always have this privacy versus utility trade-off. By sacrificing some of your privacy, the reason why people do that is because they get some utility in return. But that can go very far. And here you can see that, so 3 questions. Is it acceptable that a municipality responsible for administrating unemployment benefits analyzes their social media data to check for fraud? Say that I tell my municipality that I'm unemployed, and on social media, my Facebook, I post that I'm working as a waiter for a bar, right? So the municipality clearly sees that Bart is receiving unemployment benefits and he appears to work as a waiter for a bar. So can they use the fact that I publish this information on my social media as an indicator for fraud? It's not that evident, actually, I can tell you. Is it acceptable that an employer monitors staff behavior on social media to check fake sick leave? So if I'm telling my employer, I feel bad, I've broken my leg, for example, I broke my leg, I need to stay home. And all of a sudden, I start posting on Facebook pictures where I'm on a surfboard on holiday, clearly with a leg that is very healthy, not broken. So can my employer use that? It's tricky. Is it acceptable for insurance companies to profile customers based on their social media data, like analyzing communications about whether they do sports? If they do sports that are considered more healthy, so it will reflect in cheaper insurance premiums, whether they do dieting, smoking, etc., etc. All of this can then be used to tailor the insurance premium. Privacy has various risks, and the risk, especially in an online world, in an online advertising world, those emanate from things like cookies, search engines, social networks, internet service providers, malware, spyware, and phishing. So let's elaborate into a little bit more detail on each of these. A cookie is a text file. A cookie is a small text file or a text string which a web server can send to a visitor's web browser, right? So if I visit the Guardian website, or if I visit American Airlines, or if I visit the McDonald's website, each of those websites can put a small text file on my hard disk. And it's going to put an identifier in there. And you can see an example of an identifier here, right? To identify me and to such that if I go back to that website of the Guardian, American Airlines, or McDonald's, the server will recognize me as a repeat visitor. So a cookie is a small text string that a web server can send to a visitor's web browser, which is stored in a small text file, and the browser will send it back unchanged to the server each time a new request is sent to it. So that means if I go to American Airlines, it puts cookie, a small text file, on my computer, on my laptop. Tomorrow I go back again, then American Airlines knows that this user right here with this identifier was on my website yesterday. So he or she is clearly interested in booking a flight. And a cookie can contain a user identifier, also sometimes some other customized data, so like domain and the path of the web page that was visited. And sometimes cookies can also have expiration dates. You can see how it works. So I'm a client, so I'm on my laptop here and I visit, let's say, Nike store, right? So I ask for the homepage of Nike. What Nike can do is then it sets a cookie, right? So it has an identifier and it kind of sets a cookie on my laptop such that the next time I go to Nike, it can retrieve that cookie. It will recognize that I'm the same user and it knows that I visited Nike before. So the more I visit Nike, the more I'm telling Nike, hey, I'm interested. I'm really considering a purchase with you guys. So their cookies are a very handy data collection mechanism, but they obviously also involve some privacy challenges. First party versus third party cookies. A first party cookie is set from the same domain that hosts the web page. So let's say that I visit news websites, The Guardian or Forbes. So if I visit The Guardian sets a cookie on my laptop. If I visit Forbes, Forbes can set a cookie on my laptop. These are what we call first party cookies. You still remember from the example I gave earlier that The Guardian and Forbes use Google AdSense as their ad networks. These ad networks can also set cookies. So a third-party cookie is set by a web server from another domain, in this case, Google, the ad network. So a cookie set by Google AdSense serving ads on The Guardian or Forbes is an example of a third-party cookie. Here you can see this visualized. So this is right. So this is me, uh, um, right? Now this is me, right? So I have a website that I have here that I visit, right? Um, the ad is being requested to load, right? This is how third-party cookies. So I visit The Guardian. Here, Google AdSense puts an ad, a third-party cookie on my website. So request to load an ad from the Google AdSense network. This will then return and set the cookie. At that moment, Google AdSense or the third-party server knows that I visited website 1, Nike. If Google AdSense now also serves ads on another website, then Google AdSense can start profiling me, right? This is website 2, right? Let's say from Nike, I visit the Guardian, let's say, because I want to check the news. This is also, let's say, supported by Google AdSense. Then Google AdSense already knows that I am also interested in Nike products. This is the idea of third-party cookies. It's a cookie that is being set by another web server or another website than the website that you're looking at. Cookies, well, have also some concerns. Users can easily delete or block cookies. You can, if you want, if you consider this to be too privacy intrusive, you can delete or block them. And there exists software to block privacy infringing third-party cookies. Sometimes first-party cookies will be tolerated by users, but third-party cookies will be prohibited because users don't like them. You can actually set this yourself in your browser if you want. Search engines also could be pose a threat to privacy in the sense that they collect your search history, your demographics, your expressed interest, also your location, and they will use all this information, sometimes even without you being aware of it, to customize the search results. So if I now enter a search term in Google, if I would enter tennis shoes, and you would do that, and some of the other students would do that as well, it's very likely that our search results, and you can do that as a test, will be different. So the same search terms for different persons will yield different search results, as Google will tailor the search results towards each of our search engines history or search history or demographics, etc. Google has a privacy policy, and given that this is a well-respected company, this is very well set out on the website. You can see there. And the information is also correlated across various Google services like YouTube, Gmail, and so on. You always have an opt-out versus opt-in mechanism available, and you can check it yourself on the website below. Social networks or another thing that could pose a threat to privacy, and social networks kind of encourage people to reveal details about their personal lives. And it's always tempting if you've been to a nice place or if you have done some nice activity to post some pictures on your social network platforms like Instagram and Facebook. But it always comes with a privacy threat because companies like Facebook may or make money from personal data. They use it for the advertising, but they can at some point they we're also tempted actually to sell your data to other parties, maybe like insurance or banking companies a long time ago. And you have various issues like cyber stalking that come with it. All of a sudden, people start to know you and they can stalk you for whatever reason. Location disclosure is also a privacy threat. Social profiling and third-party disclosure. If social network firms like Facebook start sharing um, information with other parties and used in criminal investigations. Here you can see some of the privacy lawsuits that Facebook has faced, for example, from 2007 until the Cambridge Analytica scandal in 2018. It's being, yeah, some of it pretty much related to Facebook also sharing its data with external parties without consent of the customer. Internet service providers, they can see the data at the lowest level of detail. So they can see all the data transmitted to or from users that pass through their routers, right? So these internet service providers have a lot of observation potential. They can see what data is actually being sent from through the network that they're managing. In some countries, like the United States, there's no warrant required to request information from the ISP by the authority. So the state can require certain types of internet service providers like America Online, AOL to provide information about the data that has passed through their networks, through their routers. And they can actually do very deep packet inspection. A packet is an TCP/IP packet. That means that the lowest level of detail, it's just a set of bits and bytes that represent the information that's being passed on through the routers. And there exists technology to examine the data part of those IP packets, um, um, which could be used for tracking and profiling, which obviously poses a privacy threat. Malware and spyware. Malware stands for malicious software, which often comes in as a Trojan horse, it's appended to regular software to cause damage to a computer, server, client, or network. And spyware is a malicious piece of software to spy on you, right? As the term suggests, to collect information from a user without his or her consent. One of them is keystroke logging, for example. That means there's a spyware that can be installed on your laptop and which monitors every keystroke you make and sends it on to a third-party server. Phishing, right? Phishing means that somebody tries to obtain your personal details, banking details, credit card number, account number, by pretending that he or she is a legitimate entity. So here you can see an email which is being sent from some kind of organization that looks at first sight that looks official, but upon closer inspection, you see that it's not a legitimate organization and it's not a legitimate email. And you can always see that by looking at the URL or the email address or the web address that goes behind the link. So here you can see, click here. If you look at the address, you can see that this address already looks very suspicious. So you should definitely not click on this link, or you will exchange very sensitive information with the counterparty. You can see the same thing from PayPal. It's also a fake email. Here you can, if you look at the sender, you already see like it looks fake, right? So they try to pretend that they're a legitimate counterparty, that they are PayPal, but if you look at where it comes from, you can see that it looks very dodgy. This is phishing. There's various privacy protecting measures that can be taken. There's cookie managers and blockers, there's antivirus software, there's encryption, there's anonymous surfing, there's privacy protecting search engines, password managers, and regulation. Let's elaborate a bit further on how each of these work. Well, cookie managers and blockers, as the term suggests, they're just managing and blocking cookies, right? So you can tailor that to your needs. You can say, I tolerate first-party cookies, but I won't tolerate third-party cookies. Examples are AdBlock Plus, stands for ad blocker, and do not track plus, right? Antivirus software, there's plenty of antivirus software. McAfee is very well known. Norton is very well known. So yeah, it's a big market. And obviously in antivirus software, it's always a continuous game whereby the virus tries to outsmart the antivirus software by finding loopholes in it such that it can create its damaging activity. So that means that the antivirus software needs to be continuously kept up to date. Encryption means that you're gonna encode your messages. So if I have a sender and a receiver and they want to exchange some information on the internet, by doing that, you expose yourself to risk, to privacy risk. And there exists this, I'm sure you've seen that, public key encryption. That means that the recipient, the receiver, has a public key and a private key. The private key is only known to the receiver, and the public key is made available to everybody, hence the name public. So if the sender wants to send a text file to the receiver, it's going to use his public key to create some kind of decoded, encrypted document, right? Which is meaningless to everybody. The only one who can read this document or see what's in there is the receiver, as he or she will use their private key to open up, to decode or decrypt this document such that it makes sense to the receiver. HTTPS is a variant of HTTP, Hypertext Transfer Protocol. This is the protocol used by browsers such as Chrome to communicate on the internet, right? And there's a secured version thereof, which creates a secure channel over an insecure network, right? So where you have secure information exchange, And all the URLs, the uniform resource locators or the web links or the web addresses begin with HTTPS, and they use a secure port. A port is a kind of channel which is being used, a software channel along the internet to set up a connection. They use port 443 by default, whereas HTTP uses 80, which is a software communication mechanism, software communication channel, which is considered less secure. HTTP is not encrypted, so it means that it's vulnerable to man-in-the-middle attack. That means that if two parties are communicating through HTTP, there could be a man in the middle who is doing eavesdropping. Eavesdropping means that you listen to what A and B are saying, such that you can use that for whatever types of malicious purposes. Anonymous surfing, there's like the Onion Router or Tor, which is a quite exciting tool. It's a free and open source software, which is based on a distributed anonymous network facilitating anonymous surfing. Its key characteristics are that even the internet service provider is not able to track your internet activity, right? So you can surf whatever website you want. Even your internet service provider will not know who you are or what you visited. Websites, the websites you visit will see a connection coming from the Tor network, and they will not see your IP address. So they don't even know where you're located. They don't know what information, any information about you. And no browsing history is kept. So it's really anonymous and safe surfing. It sends, the way it works is you can find out by looking at this YouTube video right here, but it sends your traffic through 3 random servers. They also call it relays in the Tor network, and it uses heavy encryption with the last server connecting to the public internet. But because there's so many random servers and heavy encryption before that, actually the public internet does not know who you are, where you come from, what websites you visit, etc. There's even privacy protecting search engines like DuckDuckGo. They're not profiling users. That means that they show all users the same search results for a given search term, right? You can see the website of, I've never used it. I just had a look at it when I prepared this material. And the funny thing is when the Snowden revelations came out, which is about June 2000 from Edward Snowden, right? All the privacy sensitive information that he disclosed to some authorities, that you can see that there was a rise in the usage of the DuckDuckGo search engine. Password managers allow to create random long complex passwords, which will make it more difficult for malicious users or hackers to know your passwords. They are a single point of failure, but that's always true with email as well. So that means that every now and then it is recommended to have your password reset, obviously. And then there's regulation. The global or the general data protection regulation is the regulation which the EU is adopting and which has been effective from May 25th, 2008 onwards. And very important to note is that it's regulation. It's not a directive. So it's not a set of guidelines that you should adhere to, but it's actual regulation. And the goals were to provide rules for protection of natural persons or people like you and me with regards to processing or data. And it tries to protect our fundamental rights and freedoms of natural persons. Makes a distinction between a data subject, a data controller, and a data processor. A data subject is the human being about whom you collect data. A data controller, like a person, company, authority, government, is an entity that determines determines the why and how for processing personal data. And data processor is then the entity that actually performs the processing on the controller's behalf. Now, GDPR says that the data controller is the principal party responsible for the consent of the customer or the data subject of whom you're about to collect data, for providing him or her the right to access, and for providing him or her the right for erasure to erase all his or her personal information. GDPR also states that data processors are instructed and act on behalf of data controllers. Has various articles. We're not going to go through it exhaustively. Here you can see the regulation, the material scope of the regulation, Article 2. And it says, let's read it together. For the purpose of this regulation, personal data means any information relating to an identified or identifiable natural person, also called the data subject. And according to the European Commission, as you see at the bottom of my slide, personal data is any information relating to an individual, whether it relates to his or her private, professional, or public life. It can be anything from a name, a photo, an email, bank details, posts on social networking, websites, medical information, even a computer's IP address. Article 3 then mentions the territorial scope, right? And you can see it mentioned there, and it's summarized at the bottom as well. So it basically says that the GDPR regulation applies if the data controller or processor, could be an organization, or the subject person is based in the EU. And the GDPR regulation, very important, also applies to organizations based outside the European Union if they process personal data of EU citizens or residents. There's also some principles in Article 5 that relate to processing of personal data. Let's briefly go through them. Personal data shall be processed lawfully, fairly, and in a transparent manner. Shall be collected for specified, explicit, and legitimate purposes, and not further processed in a manner that is incompatible with those purposes. Personal data shall be adequate, relevant, and limited to what is necessary in relation to the purposes. Personal data shall be accurate and, where necessary, kept up to date. Now, I just summarized it, right? Personal data shall be kept in a form which permits identification of data subjects for no longer than necessary. Finally, personal data shall be processed in a manner that ensures appropriate security. The security is also very important. The controller shall be responsible for and be able to demonstrate compliance with paragraph 1, which refers to the accountability. Also very important is purpose specification. Personal data shall be processed for specified and legitimate purposes and shall not be used in a way incompatible with those purposes. Obviously, there's a need for a legal basis here, and there's like 6 principles that apply. Let's just also briefly read those together. They're specified in Article 6, lawfulness of processing. Processing shall be lawful only if and to the extent that at least one of the following applies. The data subject has given consent to the processing. Processing is necessary for the performance of a contract. Processing is necessary for compliance with a legal obligation. Processing is necessary in order to protect the vital interests of the data subject. Processing is necessary for the performance of a task carried out in the public interest, or processing is necessary for the purposes of the legitimate interest pursued by the controller or by a third party. The rights of the subject is that every data subject has the right to be informed about what data is being collected about him or her, to access that data, rectify that data in case it's wrong, right to be forgotten in case you want to be completely forgotten, then you can ask that all your data is being erased. You have the right to restriction of processing. You have the right to data portability. That means that your data can be ported from or transferred from one authority to another. And you have the right to object as articulated in Article 21. There's big fines that can come if you're not GDPR compliant. So organizations can be fined up to 4% of their annual global turnover for breaching GDPR, or 20 million euros, which is quite a lot. This is a maximum fine. And there's actually multiple levels or tiers of those fines. So a company can be fined 2% for not having their records in order, or for not notifying the supervising authority and data subject about a breach, or not conducting any impact assessments of those data breaches. These rules apply to both controllers and processors, meaning the clouds, for example, that gather a lot of, like the Amazon cloud, that gathers and processes a lot of data. They will not be exempt from GDPR enforcement. You can see a website, for example. This is actually a website I visited quite recently, Trip Trivia. It was a leisure website for traveling, and they said, look, you could just read it. As much as we want to inspire you to uncover the wonders of the world, due to the GDPR and the European Union, we're unable to do so at this time. So they're not GDPR compliant, so I could not access that website at that time. There's no equivalent to GDPR in the US. The US relies very much on ad hoc legislation at sectoral or industry level. There's an interesting article that you can read right there, and with some quotes, which I also, and the last one is pretty interesting, whereby they kind of say that Transparency would serve as a self-correcting market force. They will say, basically what they say is, um, privacy, we will let the market decide upon that, because if there's privacy on friendly website, they will rule themselves out automatically from the market. I personally do think that some regulation like GDPR is advisable in this respect. So this concludes our lecture on online advertising. We talked about setting the stage. We discussed different types, display advertising, search-based advertising, social media advertising. We discussed pricing models, and we concluded by highlighting some concerns.